Okay, smart people, here's your question for the day. Humans first domesticated dogs about 15,000 years ago. But when did we first master fire? Was it 2,000 years ago? Nope. Try 40,000 years ago. Our earliest ancestors likely gained control over fire when they discovered how to start fires by striking to hard materials together. But don't get too excited. They probably didn't have much use for their newfound skills. After all, they were still living in caves and wearing animal skins. But that all changed when they discovered how to make a fire pit. This invention sparked a chain reaction of innovation that led to everything from cooked food to blacksmithing to burning witches at the stake. So join us as we explore when humans first mastered fire. As the sun began its slow descent toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the savanna, our ancestors huddled around the flickering flames of a fire pit. It was a scene that would play out countless times over the next tens of thousands of years. But in this moment, something extraordinary was happening. For the first time in human history, our ancestors were not just surviving, they were thriving. The fire pit had become a focal point of their existence, a source of warmth, light, and most importantly, change. You see, up until this point, life for our ancestors had been a constant struggle against the elements. They'd spend their days searching for food and their nights huddled around each other for warmth. But with the advent of the fire pit, everything was about to change. The first thing our ancestors learned to do with their new fire pits was cook their food. And cooking, my friends, is no small feat. It requires not only the ability to control a fire, but also a deep understanding of the properties of different foods and how they react to heat. But our ancestors were quick learners, and soon they were cooking a variety of delicious meals that were not only more nutritious than raw food, but also tasted absolutely divine. Just imagine the first Thanksgiving, but with saber-toothed tigers instead of pilgrims. It must have been a sight to behold, but the benefits of the fire pit didn't stop there. With the ability to cook their food, our ancestors were able to store it for later, which meant they no longer had to spend every waking hour searching for sustenance. This newfound freedom allowed them to pursue other interests, like, we don't know, inventing the wheel or making really terrible life decisions. The possibilities were truly endless, but perhaps the most important thing that our ancestors learned from the fire pit was how to make things. With the ability to heat and shape materials in new ways, they were able to create tools and weapons that were stronger and more durable than anything they had ever made before. These tools allowed them to do even more, hunt more effectively, cultivate the land, and build more sophisticated structures. It was a virtuous cycle that led to the development of more advanced technologies and ultimately to the birth of civilization as we know it. Of course, fire also brought some challenges. There were the obvious dangers of burns and wildfires, but there was also a less tangible threat: competition. As more and more people discovered the benefits of fire, they began to fight over who had access to it. This led to the formation of the first settlements, where groups of people would come together to build large communal fires that everyone could use. It also led to the development of the first laws and social structures, as people had to cooperate in order to manage the risks of fire. But despite these challenges, the benefits of fire were simply too great to ignore. And as the centuries passed, it became one of the most important inventions in human history. In fact, some scholars argue that without the invention of fire, we might not have developed the cognitive abilities that set us apart from other animals. According to this theory, the act of controlling fire helped to stimulate the growth of our prefrontal cortex, leading to increased intelligence. Of course, this is just a theory, but it's an interesting one nonetheless. In the end, the invention of the fire pit was a game changer for our ancestors. It allowed them to cook food, make new tools, and develop more advanced technologies. It also led to the development of the first settlements, laws, and social structures. In short, it helped to kickstart civilization as we know it. So the next time you find yourself gathered around a campfire, take a moment to appreciate the incredible journey that led to that very spot. Who knows, you might just be sitting on the edge of another revolution. Okay, now it's time for your bonus fact. Did you know that some animals can extinguish fires? It's true. Elephants, for example, have been known to use water to put out fires. They lions either grab water in their tusks and pour it over flames, or they lions use their trunks to spray water from nearby sources. This behavior has been observed in the wild and has even been tested in zoos. But elephants aren't the only ones. Some species of ants can also extinguish fires. When a fire breaks out, these ants release a pheromone that alerts other ants in the colony. The ants then work together to form a chain, passing water from one to another until it reaches the fire. Once the fire is extinguished, the ants disperse and the colony gets back to work. Now it's time for your quiz. Pick the correct answer. Which of these is not a benefit of the fire pit? It allowed our ancestors to cook food. B. It made life more dangerous. C. It helped our ancestors develop new technologies. D. It led to the formation of the first settlements. If you chose B, you are correct. Well done. If you chose a C or D, don't worry, there's always next time. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more.